How's it going, everyone? Jiivita here with another forging tutorial. This is another one of Wake and Bake's techniques, and this one is for forging what he uses for tier 7 hammers. You could actually use these for tier 6 as well, but naturally they have the effect adjacent all, or rather they hit the 9 blocks at a time. They use the level 9 devastating damage boon, and then they have basically as much action speed as you can possibly cram on there. It is good to note that if you get particularly greedy with this method, there is a possibility of getting both quirks and defects. So this method involves a fair amount of judgment calls and what you're willing to risk. Certainly this aggravated attacks debuff, depending on where you're mining, really isn't going to affect anything, and certainly this minus critical chance is laughable as far as the defect. But anyway, let's take a look at the ingredient deck, or rather let's take a look at the hammers themselves. So he uses sapphire hammers, which I actually really like. So sapphires, they're pretty easy to mine just by themselves. Arguably it's even easier to go after topaz and then change the topaz into sapphire, so that is an option right there. What I like about these hammers is that, one, they're easy to get as far as the gems, but they have a lower energy drain than, say, diamond. So diamond uses what, 38 energy per swing. This is only 26, and if you're swinging particularly fast, that can make a pretty large difference of how often you're having to stop and wait on energy to regen. Certainly if you're using something like a starberry pie, that's kind of not as big of a deal, but since I usually use either teaching or persisting pies, this is something that, you know, I like to take into account. But moving along, let's take a look at the ingredient deck. So where the balance comes in is between the draining and the corrupted boon compound. So the draining boon compound, it's going to give us some quirk points, and it also gives us a debuff that drains our vigor. However, this particular method, I usually run out of stability long before I run out of vigor, so that's kind of a negligible, or you can just kind of not even really worry about that. The other one over here, corrupted boon compound, they both give the same amount of boon points, but this one adds 80 defect points per round for 3 rounds. So instead of draining our vigor with the debuff, this debuff is adding to our defect points. The interesting little kind of mechanic exploit here, it's not really an exploit, but you're just leveraging it to your advantage, is that these defect points don't get applied until after they've already been on there for a little bit. So in other words, if you use this compound and then immediately use a vigor catalyst next to remove the debuff, then you actually don't get any of the defect points. It's not until they've been on there for a round that you get that first tick. So in other words, just before you use your vigor catalyst, you can end with one of these to get a little extra boon points without getting either defect or quirk points. So that's another way you can kind of balance or min-max what you're doing. But the reason why we need 2 different compounds is that we're actually going to be forging 9 hammers at the same time. So that is why we're taking 2 stacks of compounds, and really we shouldn't use an entire stack of either one of these because we are going to try to balance them out. So we'll use probably mostly draining and then some of the corrupted. But moving along, we're going to be using the special gum, of course, to get the AoE effect gum to get the damage effect, and then lightness gum to get the speed effect. Optionally, you could sub this out for, say, maybe the longevity gum if you would prefer a durability hammer. However, in order to use these hammers on both a tier 6 and a tier 7 world, you will need some version of a strength brew. So for a tier 6 world, you only need an improved, or rather the 20% extra damage brew, but for a tier 7 you will need the full 50% extra damage from the mega strength brew. So that is something to keep in mind, that you won't be able to use the fast brews to increase your action speed. So having the speed boon is where you're going to get all of your speed from. Go figure. And then coming down below, we have the protection paste, the stretch out our stability. Fate Paste to kind of tip those sliders a little bit more in our favor. It's going to help us avoid both the quirks and defects. We have Vigor Catalyst to, of course, reset all our boons. Deconstruction Resin as our get out of jail mostly free card. This method is can be unforgiving as far as RNG, and if you're just unlikely, you're gonna be burning through probably stacks of this deconstruction resin. That's kind of the big pitfall of this method. However, if it's successful, remember you're getting 9 hammers that are all exactly the same and of very high quality. So it's kind of, it's there's some risk involved, but the rewards kind of justify it. And of course, setting resin because, well, you have to bring it. Okay, so let's jump in here. So begin forging. So step 1, we're going to apply some gum. So Wake and Bake, his method is he just uses 1. However, I found that to be a little too random, so I'll probably be using 2. As I said before, this method generally doesn't have a problem with vigor, or rather I run out of stability before I run out of vigor. So it really doing 2 for me. It's only 100 extra vigor that I'm burning. But then again, you have to remember you're using 9 of these every time you use it, so you're kind of putting more materials at risk. But hopefully it pays out and you don't have to basically deconstruct quite as often. So now that we're targeting essentially the AoE boon, now there is a possibility we'll get Loot Magnet instead, or we could get a completely random boon, but at any rate we're going to do the first compound and hopefully, so right off the bat, we weren't even targeting this boon, so here we go, deconstruct. And basically rinse and repeat. Probably want to go through and restock anything that we didn't recover, but we did get everything back, so that's great. And as I said, rinse and repeat. Okay, so there we go. We at least got the special category as far as boons, but we got the magnetic collector. So again, rinse and repeat, deconstruct. Hopefully we get our special gums back. Looks like we did not. So yeah, that is 18 special gums down the drain, which is probably why he opted to just use 1 gum at a time. There we go, we got magneted again. Well, we got the AoE boon. Yeah, that's exactly what we wanted. For some reason I thought we were targeting something else. See, I already got distracted. So let's go ahead and reset. So now we're going to try and get the effect gum. So maybe you could just use 1 gum to start off, that way we're not risking quite as much, but then maybe use 2 on this one. It's kind of, like I said, there's a lot of judgment calls involved with this method, so but we got our effect trait, so let's just go ahead and throw on some more draining. And hopefully, so we got a potential quirk, but it really doesn't matter. Wonky, ooh, that's even a bad one. However, see, it takes quite a bit of quirk points to actually fill these up. But anyway, back to square one. Got our AoE boon there, so let's reset. And do our effect gun to try to get that devastating damage boon. And again, we got the hard hitter, which is critical damage or something like that, and we don't want aggravating attacks, kind of like so what. There we go. At least we're getting lucky with the first one, but doesn't really matter if we can't get the second one. And there we go, we got the devastating damage boon. So now we're all, you know, I say almost scot-free, almost into the clear, but we still have to get the last boon, but it's going to be a pretty safe bet since there's only 1 boon that comes from the lightness gum. So we got in poor health quirk, its potential of course, not exactly... Yeah, extra action speed at low health, so not a good one to get. But we're going to go ahead and reset here. And we're going to put on another 2 for lightness. And this time we're going to assume we get it. So we're going to go ahead and apply some buffs. We're going to do 2 protection, 1 fate paste. That'll put us at 6 protection and 5 fate, which is a pretty nice little duo there. And then we're going to apply some more draining, and hopefully we don't get perfect. Hopefully, it's still possible to get a random boon here, but it's generally a pretty safe bet. And we already have it up to rank 3, so the busy bee or the speed is kind of, it's bonus. So it would be awesome if we could max it out consistently, but generally it's kind of get as much of it as you can, but don't fret over it too much. So it's almost rank 4. And usually the pitfall that I run into is I want to use up all of these buffs, but it's all going to go to the busy boon, and then I don't have enough for the other buffs. So let's go ahead and probably use a corrupted and then reset. Because yeah, that got us up to rank 6. That is pretty awesome. And notice we have, there we go, the 3 corrupted debuffs, but we don't actually tick on them or get their effect until we do the next round, which we can use the Vigor Catalyst to basically get rid of. And 30 action speed, that is plenty, so we really don't have to worry about this boon anymore unless we just wanted to make an insane hammer. And granted, it's more whether or not there's even the opportunity to try to make that kind of hammer. But let's go ahead and reset. We're going to focus on getting this devastating damage up to rank 9. Okay, we're going to freeze frame here for a moment because hindsight is 2020. If you notice, I used 2 protection paste as well as 1 fate paste, and I have all of these stacks left as far as my buffs on the forge. So really the better option here would have been to just use 1 protection and 1 fate paste, and that way I could have saved a little bit of stability that could have been used somewhere else down the line. Certainly if you get unlucky and it takes more compounds to get the desired effect, then having the 2 protection would have been beneficial, but generally I don't think that's going to be the case. Oh yeah, let's skip the... There we go. So as you can see, we're doing pretty good on stability and vigor, so that is awesome. So we're going to focus on the devastating damage. At this point, we really only have to just barely tip the scale in our favor. We don't have to worry about getting a random boon that's going to mess anything up. If points accidentally go into a different category, it's kind of no big deal. So we're just going to do 1 gum to target the effect category. Again, we're going to do our 2 protection, 1 fate. And start off with draining boon. And so we only need to get, well, I guess 5 more ranks. Sorry to say 4, but that would only be rank 8. Okay, so we got another potential slow-mo quirk. So yeah, this one's really no big deal at all either. So it makes your walking speed a bit slower, but you can still run the same speed you normally would be able to. So, and when you're mining anyway, you're kind of a walking speed anyway, even with a really fast hammer. So. But at any rate, so we are up to rank 6 on our devastating damage, and basically just kind of keep going until we start getting low on fate. Here we go, rank 7, perfect. Everything's going pretty good. And the only thing we want to do is just kind of pay attention, and if we can, use a corrupted boon compound before we reset. So we're up to rank 8. We got 2 more fate buffs. We're doing okay on quirks. We definitely want to avoid this one. That one's not a big deal, and who knows, we might get a third one and risk leveling that up before we even get those. So the fate buffs will help us avoid that. Not going to make us immune to it by any means, though. Ooh, yeah. So hopefully, we're going to switch over to our corrupted. And because we have one fate buff left, and hopefully it goes into this devastating damage and ranks it up to 9, because that will be amazing. Allow us to focus on the AoE boon and hopefully get this hammer to a finishing point rather smoothly. So let's go ahead and do this. Cross our fingers. Perfect, look at that. Wow, it even almost ranked it up to rank 10. It's really not a good idea to try to rank it up to 10 because that gives you basically no benefit whatsoever. So at this point, we are ready to reset and focus on the AoE boon. So, do our Vigor Catalyst, clear the board. See, yeah, look at that. We still have over 1,000 Vigor. It's really our stability that's going to be our limiting factor. So special gum to target the AoE boon there. Really only need one. I suppose if it was just critical, like you're perfectly happy with this, you might go ahead and do 2 just to try to prevent some accidental, points going into a different boon, but I don't really see that being an issue here. Go ahead and do 2 and 1 of our protection and fate. Okay, so now we are set up to rank up this AoE boon. So start off with our draining. We only have 4 draining boons left. We're getting pretty full on the quirks. We have none in the defect bars, so we could kind of go a little bit crazy using the other one, but yeah, let's go ahead and at least open with 1 draining. Okay, very nice. So that's aggravated attacks. Depending on where you're mining, that's like no big deal. If you're down deep, nothing's going to be down there to attack you anyway. The only thing this debuff, or this quirk rather, does is makes creatures become aggressive from farther away. So the only time this would be an issue if you're mining on either the surface for some reason or at least close to. So not a bad one to have. So yeah, I think we'll continue. We're at rank 3. So that is very nice. We'll do 1 more. Very nice. We definitely don't want to get that one. So we're probably done with the draining boon compound. We only have 2 uses left anyway. And I guess those points... Okay, I don't think we pushed very much into the boon. I think that was what happened there. But anyway, let's switch over to Corrupted. We certainly have a lot of defect points to kind of play around with. We got the Fate buff to help us avoid getting defects. But let's go ahead. Perfect. So right now, this is a perfect place to stop. We do not have any quirks, which is a huge selling point for a lot of players. We don't have any defects, which again, huge selling point. And just from a usability standpoint, some of the defects are like, so what? So if you get one that kind of increases the energy usage, meh. If we get one that decreases the critical strike chance or critical strike damage, again, who cares? We're not relying on critical hits. The only defects we're really worried about are minus damage and minus durability. So really the defects got a fair amount of wiggle room, but of course the quirks do as well. The only thing about defects is it takes a lot less points to get the first rank of a defect. So it's a little bit less forgiving if you do actually push some points into a defect. But anyway, I think that's enough rambling. We could reset this and try to rank up this busy bean a little bit more. But really, I would say stop right here. We got 30 extra action speed. That is fantastic. But so my judgment call, end it here. Since we're on creative mode, and it's kind of like, why not? Let's see how far we can push this. So let's go ahead and reset this. We still have 1,000 vigor. Okay, since we're not gonna use up any, all of that vigor, probably, I don't know. We'll use maybe 3. Really, 2 is probably. Yeah. We'll use 3 lightness gum just to try to ensure it doesn't accidentally go into any one of these. We don't care about rank 10, that's a waste, and we certainly don't want rank 5 of the AoE boon because then it hits random blocks and it's terrible. So we're going to do at least 1 protection. Let's see here, that'll give us 3 rounds of protection. We only have 300 stability. Yeah, that's probably gonna cut us short. Probably should have only done 1 protection, but... And I guess we're gonna go with corrupted, because we really don't want to fill this up any more than we have to at this point, because, this one is the one we really don't want to get, so... But, so yeah, let's go ahead and do corrupted. We'll get some defect points. See, that even went into the one we didn't want. Luckily, it landed pretty darn low. And let's see here. Oh, we're almost up to rank 7. So we can go, looks like another 2 rounds before we're just out of resources. We got it up to rank 7. And why not? Let's go. I guess we could go even another round after this. Got up to rank 8. Whew. I think we're good. I don't think we're gonna get any more points into quirks or defects. It's probably gonna be a stretch to get this to rank 9 in 1 more round. I mean, we can go ahead and see what happens. Okay, yeah, so it's gonna warn me because we're under 100 stability. This would break, however, we have this protection buff that's going to cut it in half, so it's really only going to use 50. Yes, continue forging. See, we still have 19 stability left. That is pretty darn close, but let's see how this lands. I forgot how slow this goes when you actually watch it. So yeah, we get our 3 rolls. Ooh, okay, good. So we didn't get a quirk. We're gonna, oh, that's right, it has to roll 3 times. There we go, we missed there. Very nice. And yeah, so we wasted essentially another 9 compounds for no additional effect. But we do have a hammer with no quirks, no defects, and 40 extra action speed, along with the damage and AoE that is going to get the job done. So that is a very nice forge indeed. So this time it did pay out to kind of keep going. Of course, we did use more forge ingredients, and again, we're using 9 items per round, so that is no small amount of materials that we used to get this. But gonna plop down our setting resin, and there we go. So as you can see here is how much stuff we have left. Each one of these stacks was of course 100 when we started, so yeah, just a little bit of ingredients used there. But we do have 9 hammers valued potentially like upwards of 10,000-12,000 a piece, so not a bad hammer at all. As I said, this method is riddled with lots and lots of judgment calls. Just like I was saying earlier, at that 30 action speed, I should have just ended the forge right there. But since I really have nothing to lose, I pushed it a little bit further. It panned out this time. It could have gone horribly wrong. So by all rights, I should have ended it right there. But anyway, I think that covers this video quite nicely. It's a pretty cool method. It can be forgiving if RNG is not on your side, but then again, once it is successful, you have 9 hammers to either use or sell, and these will go for a rather nice price, especially if they don't have any quirks or debuffs, which is a little bit sad because some of the quirks can be quite beneficial indeed. But a lot of players seem to either not understand exactly what all they do, and that some of them are good, but then others, they don't like the particle effect that kind of swirls up into your face, and I can't exactly blame them. But anyway, this was Jiivita. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more like this, and if there's anything you didn't like, please let me know down below. Also, if you like my channel, want to get cool perks, check out my Patreon page. Until next time, peace. Oh, am I not showing my mouse? That's awesome.